On the next page, if you turn to the page that says Disaster Recovery Audit, I'd like to go through this. This is a really neat tool that if you take the time and you're honest and you really go through this, will give you a good idea of where you stand right now and would you be able to recover from any of these kinds of disasters. I know everybody in the room probably thinks coming in, yeah, I've got this covered, we're in pretty good shape, or maybe that's why you're here, you know you don't. But what we want to go through is a real good way to figure this out for yourself. So the first page, I'm not going to go through in detail, but you really need to spend the most time on this first page. So if you look, it just lists the different types of data that your company might have. We had some of these listed up here. So if anybody really wanted that $5 earlier, you could have looked at this page and I kind of recreated most of it from there. But so just go through and figure out my company. What do I have? Do I have accounting information, CRM, email? What do we have that's important? So once you've got those categories listed, the next thing you want to do is start looking at, okay, if we lost that data for a day, for an hour, for a month, whatever, what does that do to us? And this is the hard part for any business, to really sit down and be honest with themselves. I haven't met a business owner yet that when I sit down and try to help them get this information, number one will be truthful with me about it, because well, they don't want to give you their financial stuff usually, but they don't want to expose their weakness. They don't even want to think about it, even if they know it. But if you'll take the time, if you'll really dig in and figure out what this information is, it'll help you immensely be able to recover. So what would it do if you lost your accounting information? And I can't tell you what's important here. I can guess your accounting, your CRM might be pretty important. Maybe it's your email, that's most important to you. So what happens if I've lost that information? What if you permanently lost it? It was just gone. You didn't have anything in place. Again, the building burned and it's just not there anymore. What would that do to your business? You can fudge those answers for me, anybody else, but if it's your business and you fudge those answers, you're hurting yourself. The most important column here and the hardest thing to determine is what would that cost me? So you really have to stop and think about that. Okay, everything's gone. I have to recreate it. So any of these documents, any of my customer information, what would it really take to go back and say, I've got all my billing for the last month that has to go out and, geez, what work did I do? How am I going to go out and re-invoice all that? Sit down and figure out what will that cost you. I'll give you some examples. Obviously, there's the time involved. Okay, it could be just your time, could be the average amount that your company spends on employees, wages, benefits, those kinds of things. That's a good place to start. But then you have to think about, okay, not just that, but again, whatever supplies to recreate all that kind of stuff. But Dennis alluded to one of the most important things is your reputation. Okay, you've got customers out there, right? If you're down for a week, and they're trying to call and get service from you or get supplies or whatever it is that you do, and you can't deliver because you're down, what's that do to your reputation? Can you recover from that? I don't know the answer to that. You're the one that can answer that question, and you need to be honest and fill that in on that section. So really try to determine the cost of downtime. Again, I challenge every CEO, every business owner that I work with to figure out what that number is, and I'll help them do that. I'll help you do that. That's actually going to be part of the topic of our next Lunch and Learn seminar. But take the time, go through there, and as best you can, figure out what's the dollar amount if that happens to my business, and fill out that first page. The next page, if you flip over, is kind of a scorecard. Now we're going to whip through this just real quickly, give some examples, but this is how you can determine, right now, my business, the way it operates, what's my level of risk here. So I'm not too concerned. The very last page is the scoring of it. You can sit down and do this. I'm not too concerned about the actual scoring, but just, again, be honest and go through, okay, we're doing backups, great. How often? Is it daily? Is it monthly, weekly, whatever it is, and give yourself that score. So obviously, the better you want negative numbers here. It's like golf, the lowest score wins. So are you backing up? Secondly, do you have paper copies of everything so you could recreate? So give yourself a score, and we'll just kind of run through these. Who has access? This is very critical. Who has access to the data? So again, if you think, well, I know my employees, I trust them all, but do you have a cleaning company coming in? And when they're cleaning at night, are the computers on? Do you have passwords? Do they have access to sit down and mess with your computer? So these are the kinds of things we want you really starting to look at and start to think about. Where's the data stored? Again, let's mention this. Is it just here in the office? Is it on an external drive? Is it offsite? Is it in a safe? Where is it? Score yourself there. The next one is one that just gives everybody high scores just because you can't get around this. We don't have too many earthquakes. We don't have too many, terrorist attacks, although being an international border, that's a real possibility, fires, floods, but we do have tornado threats all the time. We have severe thunderstorms, and apparently we are affected by hurricanes once in a lifetime. So it does happen. So what else do we have? Sensitive data. This one, if you're in the medical field or any field where you have critical data, customer information that you have to protect, you definitely need to be concerned about that. If you are putting data in the cloud, who's backing that up? The cloud's wonderful. You've all heard it. My data is up there in the cloud somewhere, and then you kind of forget about it because it's, it's not my problem, it's theirs. But really, it's still your problem. If they're not backing it up, you need to know how that's being done or have a way to make sure you can do that too. This is one we run into all the time. How old is your equipment? Now, this has evolved over the last few years where it's really become an issue. A lot of times people don't believe me when I say this, but computers these days are built to last 3 years. The manufacturers have done that on purpose. It's just like the auto industry. They know where their sweet spot is. They know after 3 years, software has evolved to the point where they want you buying a new computer. So they don't build them to last much longer than that. I've had this proven to me over and over in the last couple of years. I've told people this, and I've had them call literally within a month of their warranty expiring going, my laptop just died. And I hate being that right, but I'm honest to God telling you, they're building them to last 3 years. So you need to know that. So if you're running on computers that are 5 years old, 5 years ago, they were built better. Your next one's not going to last that long. So just be aware of that. Score yourself there. How old are the machines you're using? Same with the server, obviously. That's even more critical. That last one there is, you're going to have to go through that, and those are, very critical things. Do you have a disaster plan in place? Again, I'll be honest, most of these things that are on here, I don't know too many companies that have all these ducks in a row already. So you're going to have some high scores when you go through this. Don't be alarmed and say, I'm in terrible shape, but it's, again, for you to look at and evaluate. The next one's just huge. How often are your backups tested? I could sit here all day and tell you stories of clients I've had over the last 20 years that have been religiously backing up. And my favorite one, it's a doctor's office that'll remain nameless, were religious. They backed up every day. They backed up to multiple different tapes. They took them off site. They had it all under control. And the reason I got this client was because their hard drive died on their server. Obviously everything was gone, and their computer guy came in to restore everything, and they had 10 copies. This was back in the days of tape drives, which that alone is scary. They had 10 copies of the icon for their program that had all their data in it. They were backing up the icon on the desktop, not the data. So when they called me in to ask for the miracle, and they said, our IT guy's confused, he's not understanding why there's nothing here, can you help? And I said, sure, give me your tapes. And I went through every tape, and I could restore any copy of that icon that I wanted. I couldn't get their data back. So similar to Dennis, fortunately, we were able to send the hard drive out to a data recovery team. Cost them thousands of dollars, but they got most of it back. That doesn't always happen either. So anyway, test the backups. If a nerd goes into your business and sets up backups and he doesn't test it, he won't be a nerd very long, okay? You got to test them to make sure the data's there. And that's something that is just becoming more and more critical. You can't trust anything in technology. You have to have redundancy, and you have to test it. So we do a quick little routine with our backups, and it's very simple to do, but you create a test folder and you put it in with everything else that's important that's being backed up, and you go in and check it and you restore it and you make sure that the data's there. I do a simple little Word document and I change the date, and once a month when I'm testing it, I change the date and I go back and next month restore it, make sure that it's working and it's there. So a lot that you can do, but most people don't test their backups at all. Where's your data located? Is it central? Is it scattered all over the place? We see this all the time where individual employees will have their critical data on their computer, and you've got yours over here, and the IT guy set up a nice folder on the server to back everything up, but you're sticking all your documents on the desktop. You didn't tell him that until your computer crashes, and then you find out, oh, well, you're supposed to put all that stuff in that folder on the server, and you put it on your desktop. So think about those things. Score yourself. Where, be honest with yourself. How are we doing this right now? How long do you keep your data? Again, I can't answer what's right for you, but that's a guideline of, scoring there. Do you have any of your employees the ability to do the following? Download from the internet, install new software, delete files from the server. This is a whole topic on its own, but again, be honest and say, hey, can my employees go in and do these things? Score yourself accordingly. Do you have a trusted IT professional that's monitoring all this stuff for you? Obviously, this is kind of leaning towards what we like to do for you, but monitoring your network, checking the backups, doing all these kind of proactive things, that's what Nerds on Site's all about. If you have another IT company that you're using, make sure they're doing these kinds of things for you. And if they are, give yourself a good score there. So, do you have a break the glass document? So what should happen if a senior exec dies or is disabled? This one kind of threw me for a loop because honestly, I've never asked, I'm an IT consultant and I've never asked that question of a business owner, but it's pretty critical. If Michael's the business owner and heaven forbid he gets run over by a Nerdmobile on the way out of here, is there a document that tells, his wife what happens next kind of thing? So think about that. And then do you have the following things in place? Assigned acceptable use policy. I'm going to pick on Dave on this one because I kind of made him do this. They have great employees. They are very good to their employees, but they really didn't have a document that said, hey, this internet that we're providing, this computer we're providing, this is what it's for. And here's the acceptable use of those devices. And if you use them for something else, there could be consequences. So trust me, it's very easy. We have a document. We can help you with that. Every business should have that in place just so it's clear. So I know, hey, if I'm at work and I'm being paid and I decide I'm going to go out and buy Detroit Pistons tickets, that's not allowed. I could lose my job over it. So everybody should have one of those in place. So again, do your homework with this page. Go through it. The last page on here kind of gives you a scorecard. And I'll be very honest with you, I think it's a brutal scorecard. But anything 200 or more, you need to be looking at some issues. It may be one area of your business. I did this on my own for Blue Water Transit because I take care of their stuff, and I was hoping to see a 0. Okay, well, it was a little higher than that. I know we've got everything in place pretty much there, but there are a few key points in there that I haven't talked to them about. So what I want as an IT consultant is to never be in a situation where a client like them comes to me and says, if only you had told me about this, we would have done that and we would have avoided all this headache. Okay. So I'm trying to give you all the information at my disposal to all of our nerds, best we can to help you in your business right now. Take this information, go back and use it and try to determine where you're at with your business. I think you'll find that probably some surprises in there, but I think you'll find it's valuable time well spent to go through that and do that. Where do you go from here? Let's just say in the next couple of weeks or to the end of the year or whatever, you find the time, you do that and you go, wow, there's some things here we need to address. Obviously we would love to help you with that. We're going to be offering to the end of January, anybody that wants us to come out and help them sit down with that document, help you do an assessment of your business and figure out where you're weak and what solutions are out there, we would love to do that. We normally have a fee for that. We're going to waive that fee for anybody that's here today that needs that kind of help. So keep that in mind. Just again, we'd love to be your IT company, but we also just want to help educate you. And again, if it's not a good fit for us, but you've got somebody else or you got somebody on staff doing that, just try to give you some information to make sure you're covered all the way around.